Is part of the British Indian Overseas Territories.
Combination with his responsibilities as an MP. But after his recent adventure, I hadn't realised small boat captain was amongst them.
What would then the reaction of the right-wing media who have made this their pet project?
Let's witness Clacton's own in-action man Nigel Farage face another moment of humiliation in the House of Commons. Shortly after failing to apologise for one of his councillors' shocking comment about shooting a standing Labour MP, he moved on to his next blunder regarding the Chagos Islands. He rambled on about topics that had nothing to do with Clacton. He seemed to believe that his time is better spent discussing issues thousands of miles away from Clacton. After his tedious history lecture aiming to glorify himself, he finally relieved us all by presenting his question.
And I wish to inform the government that we are just a few days away, in my opinion, from the Maldives issuing a counterclaim to the International Court of Justice to say if anybody has the right to the sovereignty of those islands, it is the Maldives and not Mauritius. And I would urge you to pause all of this.
Yeah. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member for Clacton suggests that we have gone around the American government. I have set out already in my response the extensive talks that we have had with both secretaries and indeed the President of the United States within recent months on this question. There is no question of going around the US government. The Honourable Member says, well, what has changed? Clearly, the view of the United States President may well have changed, but the treaty has not. We have discussed this treaty in great detail in this House. It is a treaty that emerges from talks initiated by the previous government and completed. Mr. Speaker, I would find it more plausible to hear chuntering from the benches on the other side from me were I not a diplomat in the Foreign Office during the period they were negotiating this deal for 11 rounds.
Exactly.
I do understand that the members opposite, honourable and right honourable, wish to now distance themselves from the 11 rounds that they conducted, but let us at least order.
Well, after the Speaker had told the ever-shrinking Tory benches to stop roaring and crying about being told home truths, Mr. Falconer had his stinging rebuke for Trump ass-kisser and Putin poodle Nigel Farage.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Returning to the substance of the Honourable Member's question, I would just like to remind him that if he turned up with a selfie stick to RAF Waddington in Lincolnshire, a similarly sensitive military base, he would be turned away. I do not understand his surprise, or those who travelled with him, that when you sought over the weekend to film a video on a sensitive military site under the control of the UK, it is part of the British Indian Overseas Territories, as you know, and I would encourage the Honourable Member and indeed every member of the public to check British traveller.
Order. You keep saying you. I am absolutely not responsible about this filming or the involvement. Please. I'm being drawn into something I don't wish to be at this stage.
Mr. Speaker, I can only apologise for not seeking to draw you into such a flagrant instance of ignoring travel advice. The treaty is as it was signed. It is going through both houses of Parliament. We are discussing this with our American colleagues. The fact that the Honourable Member sought to take a selfie video on the islands does not change any of those factors.
That must be painful, right? However, to give credit to Farage, he is aware of his audience. He can just edit his tedious rants, removing the responses so his bigoted supporters can gloat together. And he definitely wouldn't have included this remark from Labour MP for Hollysuwen, sorry if I butchered it, Alex Bollinger.
I know the member of Clacton has a number of additional jobs in combination with his responsibilities as an MP. But after his recent adventure, I hadn't realised small boat captain was amongst them. So maybe as a former Royal Marine, I can help him with his navigation. Can my honourable friend, the Minister, remind the member for Clacton what the penalty is for taking a trip to the British Indian Ocean Territory without a permit?
Minister.
My honourable friend paints the honourable member for Clacton as a captain, but I will decline the opportunity to be the sheriff on this occasion. The honourable member says stop the boats, but he did take a private jet there, which wasn't quite consistent with the small boat rhetoric that we usually hear from his party. I want to be clear that obviously there has been an attempt to land, indeed successful, on part of the British Indian Ocean territory. That is not an area fit for human habitation. It is an area in which British travel advice is very clear that one should not travel to. This House has discussed on many occasions the sensitivity of this base, of these islands. I would encourage everybody listening at home to attend to our travel advice. It is there for a reason.
Well, there you have it. Followers of Farage, he's not been truthful to you. Not that it matters to you, as when it comes to Farage and his followers, emotions and fantasies hold more value than reality. However, in the realms of geopolitics, sentiments and fantasies won't suffice, will it? Yet, Labour MP for St Austell and Newquay, Noah Law, posed a very insightful question concerning patriotism and perhaps even treason.
Can I ask the Minister to engage in a short thought experiment? What would have been the reaction had senior members of the Labour Party in opposition, what would have been the reaction if they, at the time, had gone to lobby a foreign government against the best interests of the British Security Service? What would then the reaction of the right-wing media, who have made this their pet project, and the parties opposite be?
Minister.
It's a very good question from my honourable friend. Madam Deputy Speaker, when I was a diplomat, usually what we understood was that politicians British politicians that is, would not seek to undermine the British government overseas. We can argue in this place, but broadly we would try and keep our disputes on our own islands rather than going elsewhere to prosecute them. So I was surprised to see the vigour with which the benches opposite are seeking to undermine the process that we have been engaged in.
It's quite a thought-provoking question, isn't it? Can you envision if anyone from the Labour Party or even Keir Starmer himself had been covertly engaging with foreign leaders to plot against their own nation like Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage have? There would have been calls for arrests, resignations and claim that the Labour government couldn't be trusted with national security. Meanwhile, we have an opposition complaining about a deal they instigated negotiations for, while a habitual liar grumbles about a deal in which he expressed no interest when the Tories were negotiating, conspiring with a foreign leader to undermine their own government's authority. It's almost unbelievable, isn't it? There are words for that, isn't there? Called treason, perhaps. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below and I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.